Good evening. It's Friday, the 27th of June, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Security crackdown. Iran tightens control after brief but bloody conflict with mass arrests, executions, and military deployments across the country. Severe weather. Violent storms ravage Paris, causing 2 deaths, 17 injuries, flooded streets, and damage to Parliament roof during Prime Minister's speech. Cultural launch. Melbourne welcomes world's first international Barbie café outside United States, featuring themed dining, merchandise, and unique visitor experiences.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening once again. Iranian authorities, following a fragile ceasefire with Israel, have pivoted to a sweeping domestic security crackdown, implementing mass arrests, executions, and deploying additional military forces. The intensified repression reflects a harsh effort to stifle dissent and rising regional tensions.
As a ceasefire sets in following more than a week of devastating airstrikes and rocket fire, Iran is cleaning up and cracking down. Officials and activists said Tehran has intensified mass arrests, executions, and military deployments, particularly in the restive Kurdish region. Iranian rights group HRNA said on Monday it had recorded the arrests of 705 people on political or security charges since the start of the war on June 13th. HRNA said many of those arrested have been accused of spying for Israel. Iranian state media reported 3 were executed on Tuesday in Urmia, near the Turkish border. And the Iranian Kurdish rights group Hengah said they were all Kurdish. Iran's foreign and interior ministries did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Just before the ceasefire, some suggested Israel's attacks, which targeted Revolutionary Guards and internal security forces, as well as nuclear sites, would spark a mass uprising and the overthrow of the Islamic Republic.
The regime is ultimately what people fear the most. They want to make sure that at the tail end of all this regime actually collapses.
Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's exiled former Shah, predicted its demise.
This regime is on its way down. People know it.
Our objective is not regime change, but that may be the byproduct.
An Israeli government spokesperson said a change in the Iranian government could be an unintended result of its air campaign. And in a social media post, U.S. President Donald Trump suggested such a change may be for the best, but he later walked that back.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible.
Iran saw mass protests in 2022. While Reuters has spoken to numerous Iranians angry at the government for policies they believe led to the Israeli attack, there has been no sign yet of any significant protests against the authorities. An activist who was arrested at that time told Reuters they were being, quote, extremely cautious right now because there's a real concern the regime might use this situation as a pretext. The activist said he knew dozens of people who'd been summoned by the authorities and either arrested or warned against any expressions of dissent.
Shubhanshu Shukla, a 39-year-old Indian Air Force group captain, a part of the SpaceX's Crew Dragon on the privately operated Axiom 4 mission to the ISS yesterday, became the first Indian to reach the station. This follows multiple launch postponements dating back to early June.
Shubhanshu Shukla, a 39-year-old group captain in the Indian Air Force, boarded the International Space Station on Thursday, becoming the first Indian to do so and becoming only the second Indian in space since Rakesh Sharma in 1984. He traveled to the ISS as part of the Axiom 4 mission operated privately by SpaceX, which lifted off on Wednesday. The mission places Shukla on a 2-week science run, working alongside U.S. astronaut Commander Peggy Whitson and astronauts from Poland and Hungary. Shukla called the view from space beyond expectations.
Japan has executed Takahiro Shiraishi, the so-called Twitter killer, for murdering 9 people he contacted via social media in 2017. This marks the country's first execution in nearly 3 years, authorized after careful review by Justice Minister Keisuke Suzuki.
Takahiro Shiraishi, a 34-year-old man from Zama City in Kanagawa Prefecture near Tokyo, gained notoriety after luring 8 women and 1 man through Twitter. Claiming to help those with suicidal thoughts, Shiraishi instead strangled and dismembered his victims in his apartment between August and October of 2017. Authorities discovered the remains in coolers and storage boxes during the arrest. His method and use of social media earned him the grim nickname of Twitter Killer, and his crimes shocked the Japanese public due to their brutality and manipulation of vulnerable individuals. Following his arrest, Shiraishi was found guilty and sentenced to death in December of 2020. He chose not to appeal the sentence. The execution was carried out by hanging, the first in Japan since 2022. Justice Minister Keisuke Suzuki authorized the hanging, emphasizing the extremely selfish nature of the crimes and the significant distress caused to the public. The methodical decision followed Japan's stringent review process before capital punishment is carried out, reflecting the gravity with which the country treats such cases. Japan remains one of the few developed nations that retains the death penalty with strong public support according to government surveys. While the execution has been condemned by human rights groups advocating for abolition, a majority of Japanese citizens view capital punishment as necessary for justice and public safety. The execution of Shiraishi has reignited debates on the death penalty's ethical and legal implications in Japan, balancing public safety concerns with international human rights standards.
China signaled approval to export rare earth minerals to the US following a breakthrough trade deal aimed at easing supply tensions. The agreement ends at weeks of friction over critical materials essential for electronics and defense, marking a major diplomatic milestone.
Rare earth minerals are vital components in a wide array of technologies, from smartphones and electric vehicles to advanced military equipment like fighter jets. Control over their supply has become a strategic lever amid escalating trade tensions between the US and China. In recent weeks, tariff disputes expanded into a broader supply chain conflict, with both countries restricting access to key materials. The negotiation over rare earths thus became central, highlighting their significance beyond economics to national security and technological competitiveness. China's Minister of Commerce officially stated today that it would approve export applications for controlled rare earth items that meet legal conditions, responding to questions about accelerating exports to the US. This announcement followed confirmation from the White House and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick that a deal had been reached after talks earlier in the month in London. The agreement involves the US lifting a series of restrictive trade measures against China in exchange for renewed access to rare earth supplies. It also reflects broader efforts by President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping to stabilize trade relations amid ongoing economic tensions. The deal represents a rare moment of cooperation between the world's two largest economies during a period marked by confrontational trade policies. By securing access to rare earth minerals, the US aims to reduce supply vulnerabilities that had threatened its technology and defense sectors. However, experts warn the relationship remains fragile and future negotiations will likely address other contentious issues. This breakthrough could pave the way for more pragmatic trade discussions and help ease supply chain disruptions affecting global markets. Both countries are watching closely to see if this signals a thaw or simply a tactical pause in their ongoing rivalry.
South Korea's National Security Advisor Ri Sung-lak attended the NATO summit in The Hague on behalf of President Lee Jae-myung, who skipped the June 24 to 25th meetings due to pressing domestic concerns and Middle East uncertainties. Ministers agreed to create a defense consultative group and pursue joint high-visibility projects with NATO.
South Korea and NATO are eyeing to step up their defense cooperation. During a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the NATO summit, South Korea's National Security Advisor Ri Sung-lak and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte agreed to create a new Director General level defense consultative group. They also discussed Seoul's potential participation in the Defense Pact's high visibility projects, which are joint initiatives focused on developing key military capabilities, such as aerial refueling systems and ammunition. Attending the summit on behalf of President Lee Jae-myung, we delivered a letter from Lee reaffirming the administration's commitment to strengthening the partnership with NATO. Rutte welcomed the message, saying both sides were on the same page. Also on Wednesday, NATO and its Indo-Pacific partners, including South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, released a joint statement pledging to enhance cooperation in the defense industry based on shared values and strategic interests. Though President Lee opted not to attend the summit, citing urgent domestic issues and uncertainty in the Middle East, Lee's visit is seen as a clear demonstration of the administration's pragmatic diplomatic strategy. While in The Hague, Seoul's security chief also met with U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, where the two agreed on the need to arrange a bilateral summit as soon as possible. His one-on-ones with Japan's foreign minister, as well as top national security and foreign policy advisors from the Czech Republic and the Netherlands, centered on expanding cooperation.
It's going for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Guatemala and the United States signed a security partnership yesterday to strengthen efforts against illicit trafficking. The agreement enhances operation collaboration, anti-narcotics patrols, and joint military police efforts, marking the final stop of U.S. Secretary Kristi Noem's regional tour.
The new partnership between Guatemala and the U.S. aims to bolster capabilities to tackle transnational criminal networks, particularly those involved in drug trafficking. Central to the agreement are enhanced operational and logistical collaborations designed to improve the efficiency of border security and law enforcement agencies. Anti-narcotics border patrols will be intensified, especially along Guatemala's porous borders, which are known routes for drug and human trafficking. Additionally, the reactivation of joint patrols between Guatemalan Army and National Civil Police is expected to strengthen on-the-ground security presence in vulnerable regions. This cooperation reflects a shared commitment to confronting the complex challenges posed by organized crime in Central America. This agreement comes at a time when Central America remains critical transit corridor for narcotics headed to the United States. Guatemala, sharing borders with Mexico, Honduras and El Salvador, faces significant pressure to contain trafficking and related violence. The partnership signifies the U.S. government's recognition of the need for strong, coordinated regional responses to these threats. It also underscores Washington's broader strategy to stabilize Central America through enhanced security cooperation, capacity building, and intelligence sharing. The agreement is expected to improve not only interdiction efforts, but also the ability to dismantle criminal networks operating across borders. The signing took place during the final leg of the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem's Central American tour, which included stops in Costa Rica and Honduras the day before. The tour aimed to solidify partnerships and assess security challenges firsthand. By concluding her trip in Guatemala, Noem emphasized the country's pivotal role in regional security dynamics. This visit and the agreement reinforce U.S. priorities in combating drug trafficking and enhancing border security, aligning with ongoing diplomatic and aid efforts to promote stability and reduce crime in the region.
Soldiers in Togo used tear gas and batons to disperse protesters demanding the resignation of longtime leader Faure Gnassingbé. Clashes erupted amid political unrest following his appointment to a powerful new role with no fixed term limits.
Togo has been gripped by political turmoil since Faure Gnassingbe's recent appointment as president of the Council of Ministers, a position critics say effectively extends his family's decades-long rule. The Gnassingbe family has governed Togo since 1967, with Faure himself serving as president for 2 decades. His new role, which carries no fixed term limit, has been denounced by opposition parties as a constitutional coup, raising fears of lifetime rule. The ongoing unrest reflects deep dissatisfaction with the political status quo and growing demands for democratic reform from activists and ordinary citizens alike. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets of Lomé yesterday, blocking major roads and calling for Gnassingbe's resignation. The protests, organized by bloggers and activists, were met with a swift and forceful response from soldiers who used tear gas and batons to break up the crowds. Clashes extended into the afternoon, with shops remaining closed amid the unrest. In suburban areas, some demonstrators resorted to burning furniture and tires to create barricades, resulting in thick black smoke over parts of the city. Security forces have been accused of cracking down harshly on dissent, with dozens arrested in early June, though many were later released. In addition to the physical crackdown, the Togolese government recently suspended broadcasts from French state-funded news outlets, accusing them of bias and lack of impartiality. This move has raised concerns about press freedoms and the government's efforts to control the narrative amid escalating tensions. The political crisis comes against a backdrop of economic challenges, including a cost-of-living crisis that has compounded public frustration. International human rights groups such as Amnesty International have condemned the government's repressive tactics, calling for respect of peaceful protests and democratic rights.
Severe storms swept France, toppling trees, flooding Paris streets, and even leaking into Parliament's roof mid-speech. Authorities report 2 fatalities and 17 injured. Torrential rain has plunged the capital into chaos, prompting urgent emergency response efforts.
We're still without power this Thursday morning. The high winds and pounding rain came after a sweltering heat wave that saw temperatures pass 35 degrees Celsius. Morgan Air reports.
After days of scorching heat, rain and wind lashed Paris. Streets and metro stations were flooded, and the Eiffel Tower was barely visible behind the clouds. The French capital saw gusts of wind at 90 kilometres per hour, which knocked down trees And the storm even forced the French Parliament to suspend its activity after the roof began leaking.
We're going to suspend the session for 5 minutes for the fire brigade to investigate.
It was not just Paris that was affected. Most of the country had weather warnings, and the Prime Minister urged everyone to be cautious.
Tonight, 57 departments are exposed to intense stormy episodes. I call for the utmost caution in everyone's movement and thank the rescue forces mobilized on the ground at this very moment and in the coming hours.
In some areas, the storm had already swept through, and Wednesday saw the clean-up operation, like here in the southwest.
Houses damaged, cars, windscreens, fences. In short, a lot of material damage. But it's not surprising. When you've experienced the violence of last night's storm, it's not surprising. It feels like a cyclone.
France has been experiencing its 50th nationwide heatwave since 1947. Temperatures are expected to soar once again, with parts of the country reaching 37 degrees in the coming days.
Heavy rains caused severe flooding in Apartaderos, Venezuela, washing away homes and displacing over 270 families. The government activated emergency response efforts providing aid as residents cope with significant losses. No fatalities have been reported amid ongoing tropical wave impacts.
Intense rainfall in the Andean region of Venezuela, particularly Apartaderos, has resulted in overflowing rivers that have devastated communities. The state of Merida reported that more than 270 families were affected, with many homes either severely damaged or completely washed away. Residents described the traumatic experience of losing everything to the floodwaters but were thankful for timely warnings that helped save lives. Beyond Merida, other states including Táchira, Barinas and Trujillo have also faced heavy rains and flooding, exacerbated by tropical waves passing through the region, highlighting a wider pattern of climate-related challenges. In response to the crisis, the Venezuelan government quickly activated a special emergency plan to address immediate needs. This includes deploying medical teams to assist those injured or at risk of disease, distributing food and essential supplies to displaced families, and coordinating rescue and relief efforts. Authorities have emphasized their commitment to restoring infrastructure and providing long-term support to affected communities. While the flooding has caused widespread property damage, no deaths have been reported so far, a testament to effective early warnings and community resilience in the face of natural disasters. The recent floods in Venezuela underscore the vulnerability of Andean regions to extreme weather events, intensified by changing climate patterns. Tropical waves that sweep through the Caribbean and northern South America frequently bring heavy rains, which can trigger flash floods and landslides, especially in mountainous areas. The situation in Venezuela reflects similar challenges faced by neighboring countries prone to such climate hazards. Experts warn that increased frequency and severity of such events demand stronger disaster preparedness and infrastructure improvements across the region. Humanitarian organizations continue to monitor the situation closely to assist governments in mitigating the impacts on vulnerable populations.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In suburban America, airline pilot Jason Kay brings a taste of New York summer to local streets. On his days off, he wheels a hot dog cart serving iconic nostalgic hot dogs to his community without the hustle of the city.
Get you a little lunch? Yes, please.
It's a symbol of summer and also New York. The humble hot dog served up by a guy with a cart. Jason Kay thought that was lacking in his suburban town, so he decided to be that guy.
For me, it's an American classic. I grew up eating them. It's affordable. It's something everybody passes by. You see the umbrella, you see the cart, makes you think New York City, and now here it is in the suburbs.
You won't find him on his corner every day, though. He does have another job.
What else do you do, besides doing?
The other 5 days a week, oddly enough, you'd find me at 35,000 feet as an airline pilot. No kidding. Yeah.
But when he's grounded, all he really wants is to connect with other people and provide them something that isn't so available these days. Telling WCBS,
having a local stand, having people come up, just interact, talk about their day, grab a meal that's affordable in a time where things aren't as affordable as they used to be. I've had someone say, where else can you get lunch for $10 nowadays? And I said, well, you found it.
Melbourne has welcomed the world's first Barbie-themed cafe outside the United States. The cafe opened today at Chadstone Shopping Centre in the two-storey Malibu Barbie cafe, featuring retro glam interiors, themed dining, a Ken cocktail bar, a roller rink and exclusive Barbie merchandise.
Shades of pink served in every possible way. Melbourne winter warmed up by Malibu energy. Whether it's the sugar hit or the one in the box office, the Barbie hype sparkles brighter than ever.
I was like, wow. I was just so excited, just for all the signs. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be fun.
From LA, Houston, Chadstone's two-storey dream house is the first Malibu cafe outside the US.
When I hopped in here, I thought it was just going to be a bit girly, like for my sister, but I actually really enjoyed the food and the roller skating.
And from 8 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, it'll serve 18 plus only.
I must say I'm a fan of the Ken Cabana bar.
The party does eventually have to come to an end. Malibu's palm trees will move on next summer, but until then...
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Selena Jaitlika. And we leave you tonight with the visuals of Christie's Classic Week showcasing art, history and icons. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076 805 7933. Anuradhi Vikramasinghe will be joining you next with the Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.